All right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis. We took a week off because I looked at the calendar and said, we're kind of crunching up against it for if we want to do 8 weeks, 8 divisional previews, actually getting to the season. So, I figured, apropos what I said in the last episode, we take the week off early, we get that out of the way, and, when we just kind of get her going towards the season at this point. So, this week we got the first division preview here. We are, within spitting distance of the NFL season, man. It's right around the corner. Does mean summer is, well, we're in July. It's not almost over. I mean, we still got some good hot weather for probably the next 2 months, we'll say. So we're gonna enjoy that. Before the fall and the winter inevitably take over here in the beautiful state of Ohio, and I'm plunged back into the cold again, which I'm not looking forward to. So, I got the open Hawaiian style, I don't know, party shirt as I like to call it. I got the wife beater here, the shirt. Let's not get it twisted here. And we're just ready to go for this one, folks. So I got a couple headlines for you to catch up a little bit. Not going to spend too much time on that because off-season headlines are off-season headlines. So we're just going to hit on those real quick. And then, with no prep whatsoever, we're just going to power through these. We got some slight changes to the division previews here. And we'll get into that a little bit more as we get closer to it in the show. But for right now, just know we're doing slight changes. Nothing too crazy. Just slight changes because I thought about some stuff a little bit more, and I decided to abstain from some things. But with all that said, we're back. We're getting into this thing. So without further ado, let's get into a couple headlines. So first off, while we were away, Darren Waller came out of retirement. He is signed with the Miami Dolphins. Just got to cross some T's, dot some I's. They had to do a quick pick swap with the New York Giants because obviously Giants still held Darren Waller's rights. So, got a little late round pick swap. I think it didn't. I think it's a conditional, like 5th, 6th round pick that the Giants ended up getting. I think it was probably like 6th. I think they sent a 7th, swapped it for a 6th or something like that. I think maybe it's conditional that it can go up to a 5th. I don't know for sure. But Darren Waller, he is with the Miami Dolphins, so. That's a thing that's happening. I have no idea what they're trying to do on a daily basis in Miami, and I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to end up in another 8 and 9 season. But who's to say? We'll see how it all works out for him. I do think maybe not as highly as some of the people in the NFL of Mike McDaniel's play calling. I think he's a very good play caller. I just don't know if Chris Grier has given him the right tools to work with, we'll say. But we'll save more discussion on that topic for the actual preview of the Miami Dolphins because we were doing the AFC East. I probably should have said that up top, but whatever, man. We're sticking with the usual format here where we go AFC, then NFC, starting from East, working our way clockwise until we get back to the North so that I can do the NFC North last one because I'm biased. Sue me. Don't actually. So that's one thing that's going on. Also, Najee Harris apparently damn near shot his eye out over the 4th of July weekend. So celebrating right. Didn't go full Jason Pierre-Paul, but there were multiple people injured in that fireworks accident that Najee Harris was injured in. He got a superficial eye injury, so ultimately probably going to be fine. Might look a little bit fucky out there for a little bit for, I would say, lack of a better term. There were certainly better terms to use than that, but the eye might look a little bit interesting for a bit, but he'll be mostly fine. I think his main limiting factor here is not his vision. It's the fact that he is Najee Harris. You know, for better or for worse. For better or for worse. Maybe they use him in some of that short yardage. I feel like having who'd they draft? Did they draft Omarion Hampton? I think they did end up doing that. I love that pick. Omarion Hampton's going to be the bell cow for this team. Let's not get it twisted. He's going to get like 200 some carries probably this year. Maybe not. I think we're maybe past the point outside of Derrick Henry, the last great bell cow, if I do say so. That we're probably not putting that many carries on a guy, but I would, with Jim Harbaugh and Roman, Greg Roman. I almost said Jim Roman. Jim Rome is a radio host from back in the day when I was a kid. I think he's still doing it, but either way, Greg Roman. You know they want to run the football there between those two at the brain trust of the offense. So I mean, Najee Harris may get some short yardage touches. Interesting that they paid him as much money as they did, just to kind of, I mean, assumably have him as the backup. Maybe he's the 1A to the number one. No matter what, clearly Omarion Hampton, being the first round pick, is going to have that starting job. And I'm actually pretty excited about the Chargers this year. We'll talk about them here in a good couple weeks down the road, but I like what the Chargers are putting together. I think Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh are doing a pretty good job over there. It's interesting to watch going forward. But Najee Harris, oh yeah, I kind of got delineated there talking about the football of all it. Someone did Jason Pierre-Paul themselves. I think even worse actually, because I think they were in critical condition for a little bit. I think they're recovering at this point. I truly have not gotten any updates on that. So hopefully that person's all right, but they blew some fingers off and were in critical condition from what I understand. So, it could have been a whole lot worse for Najee Harris. I guess he should feel lucky with the superficial eye injury, but ultimately a nothing burger. Just like, hey man, we're going to have to start having like no firework clauses. Like teams have the no motorcycle clauses after Ben Roethlisberger kept getting in motorcycle accidents, from what I understand. We're going to have to start having the no firework policies in these contracts. I mean, this is just... come on, man. You can't be doing it. I feel like it's like a player a year who is doing some dumb shit with fireworks and ends up injuring themselves or does some sort of dumb shit on vacation. Don't we all? But I digress. Outside of that... talk about it a little bit more here in the context of the Buffalo Bills. I believe a woman who previously had accused Maxwell Hairston, late first round pick of the Buffalo Bills, cornerback of sexual assault. I think she may have actually filed a lawsuit against him. Fairly certain. Let me confirm that real quick. That's a heavy thing to say. So let me just verify. Sorry, I can't talk and type at the same time. Yes, she did. An Ohio woman did ultimately file a lawsuit against Maxwell Hairston for sexual assault stemming from a 2021 incident. Just a complaint at this point. So we're going to let the legal process play out on that one. We're just going to let the legal process play out. But that is hanging over his head. The NFL has suspended for less in the past. We'll see what sort of evidence comes out or how far they get. I mean, especially with Hairston having as much money as he does now, this might be one that kind of moves to settle sooner rather than later, so we don't, go through discovery. And ultimately, that may be the goal of the plaintiff attorney. And that's not to say, again, everything I'm talking about right now is strategy stuff. It's not a statement on the veracity of this woman's claims. It is purely a statement on strategy between the defense and the plaintiffs. So I don't know if either side necessarily wants to go into discovery because it's going to be tough on the victim, especially if these claims are proven true, and it's going to look bad when it comes to the player in Maxwell Hairston. So, and even if you look at it the other way around, maybe Maxwell Hairston would want to go into discovery because ultimately he knows these claims are false. If that is ultimately the truth in all of this. Sorry, I just completely brain farted there on the word I was looking for. And I guess we are just talking about it now. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if that is the case, then you're probably going to end up seeing this lawsuit thrown out, dismissed, dropped, whatever ends up happening there, voluntarily dismissing it. But we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out because we truly don't know one way or the other. I just feel like if there's any sort of veracity to these claims, I think it's probably going to get settled fairly quickly. Like maybe it lingers through this year, but when you're talking into like the full timeline of like an average, civil litigation term, probably going to be shorter than you may expect just because Hairston's got that first round contract. Yes, late first round, but still enough money to dole out in hush money, whatever you want to call it. I mean, a settlement. Let's just call it like it is. It's not an admission of guilt. It's just agreement that it'd be best for all parties to get this out of the way. We pay you a sum, you sign a non-disclosure agreement, so we keep all this sealed and we all just kind of move on with our lives from there. And again, not a statement one way or the other on the veracity of claims. I have to make that completely clear because truly we have no idea one way or the other. And stuff in a complaint, that's all allegations. It's it's on the plaintiff's side to prove those allegations. It is not a statement either way. It's not presenting the full breadth of evidence that you would get from a full discovery process. It's just a statement of allegations with, varying degrees of support within the complaint. We don't know where it's going to go from here or what to truly believe. So we let that play out. Going to be hanging over his head for a little bit, though. So something to follow. That is something to think about. On happier news, Garrett Wilson got himself paid. Unfortunately, he is still with the New York Jets, but let's be honest here. Look at what he's done. He has not really missed a beat here over the first couple years of his career with objectively terrible quarterback play. I mean, even Aaron Rodgers is probably the best one. Aaron Rodgers is not the MVP Aaron Rodgers anymore. It's statue Aaron Rodgers back there. And outside of that, we're talking about like the Chris Strevlers, the Zach Wilsons of the world. Even with all that, he's gotten 1,000 yards each and every season, and he got rewarded for it with 4 years, $130 million, $32.5 million per year. $90 million of that is guaranteed. So that's a whole lot of money coming in. The tax man's going to take a lot of it, but I think people overplay the true impact of that because the true difference in lifestyle and in choices from, say, if you were in a state like Texas and you're taking home, like, I don't know what the final tax rate would be, call it like 75 million of that 90 million guaranteed, as opposed to like a 45 or a 40 million, probably more like 45 in New York. The difference in lifestyle is not drastic. I think the real difference in lifestyle would be like living in Texas as opposed to living in the state of New York, where it is very expensive, more so than any sort of tax ramifications, I would say. So either way, he's getting paid buku bucks. He'll probably earn every cent of that contract, assuming that he stays healthy, and then re-up another time. Garrett Wilson got himself paid. 5th highest paid receiver in the league. Obviously, Jamar Chase, with that ridiculous $40+ million number, is coming in at number 1. All the way down at like 35, I want to say, is Justin Jefferson. And then it kind of goes down, cascades from there to Garrett Wilson at number 5. I don't know the full top 5. I just know the top 2 because my boy's number 2. And I know who number 1 is ahead of my boy at number 2. On the same college team, I cannot remind people enough that Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase were on the same college team and Joe Burrow was their fucking quarterback. Just one of the more mind-boggling things that I can even remember, and I witnessed it firsthand. I say it every time this comes up, but that LSU team from 2019, it just looks more ridiculous and cartoonish in overall quality as we go on in the years. And it's gonna keep doing that as these guys start like building Hall of Fame careers, and then you factor in all the other first round picks there. But I digress on that front. Outside of that, anything else happen that really tickles the fancy? Yeah, I don't think there was much. So, with all of that said, let's switch on over to the interwebs here. And we're going to talk about some AFC East divisional previews here. So, we're doing it a little bit differently this year. Just some housekeeping up top. I'm going to take a nice swig of this Gatorade and we're going to talk about it. It's good. It's good stuff. Wetting the whistle right there. Disgusting. I apologize, but I'm not really that sorry. So, changes this year. First and foremost, pretty much the only changes. I'm not doing a record prediction this time around. I'm going to give you a range. I'm going to give you best case scenario and worst case scenario. You can kind of figure out where they fall in there, frankly. Because it's just not going to make sense. I'm not doing the full math equation to make sure that the season stats for like record predictions are all like perfectly 500. I guess I could maybe do like a super pick 'em where I just go through and pick every game from every week and just bear out what the win losses are from there. Could be fun. Could be fun. Maybe I do that another time around. But actually, that's a great idea for a segment, just kind of going through week by week. We're going to put a pin in that, and we're going to talk about it at a later date because that's actually a great idea I just stumbled upon there, and I'm going to have to revisit that. But for the purposes of this, just analyzing the teams, not looking at the win-loss record so much, we're just going to go into this thing a little bit blind, and we're just going to look at these rosters. I'm going to tell you what I think about them, and then we're going to kind of, move on to the next one. But that's what we're going to do for each of these, and we're going to try and keep it to a reasonable length, though it is hard when we get into depth on these teams. So, also, we're not doing the full draft class again, I don't think. I think we're just going to kind of look at the depth chart and then kind of do it from there. Although the more that I look at that and the more that I think about that, I mean, there's no easy tab here for the draft unless I'm just missing it up here, which it's not there. So yes, we're just gonna go through the depth charts. I apologize, I'm a busy boy, so we're just kind of making it a little bit bare bones here, just trying to ad lib in between, I suppose. But enough chit chat, enough preamble. Let's get into this. Enough uhs and buts and get into this division preview for the AFC East. So starting off, going down the divisional order from last year. At first, we had the Buffalo Bills, by far the best team in the division. And I don't think I'm spoiling anything for anyone. I think they're far and away the best team this year as well, and stand to compete for the number one seed, just because, yes, the division is better, but each and every one of those teams is not nearly as good as the Buffalo Bills. So let's just go down the roster here. Starting off with the offense, obviously, you have the MVP coming back from last year, Josh Allen. That's always going to help you. You have a running back that rushed for 20 touchdowns, though isn't a contract dispute. I don't believe he's reported to any mandatory team activities yet, so we'll see how that goes. But for right now, they have James Cook in the building, Ray Davis, who they drafted last year, behind him. Pretty solid 1-2 tandem if you can get it. I think you can do all right with Ray Davis back there, even if you don't have James Cook for some period of time. But I think they're going to end up having James Cook report because, I don't know, maybe they restructure his deal. Maybe they get him a little bit more money. Maybe they just sign him to like a 1-year extension for a big 1-year number and tell him, prove it to me one more time. This is still, I mean, the running backs have more power and are getting paid more so than they were, call it, 2-3 years ago, but still, this is the running back market. There is a high replaceability value in a way that every other position does not have, and that college athletics just churn out running backs each and every year. And even, I mean, especially this past year where you had starting running backs, I think, going as late as like the 6th round. I'm sure someone in the 7th round is going to probably come out of nowhere and get big time reps for someone this year, but a crazy deep running back class when you just look at the totality of the talent. It does say a lot that they didn't draft a running back highly, preparing for the inevitable departure of James Cook. It tells me that James Cook is still very much in their long-term plans. It is a vote of confidence. So I think they probably get some sort of deal done. I just think they're probably pretty far apart on the number of what that would look like. And let's not act like they didn't draft Ray Davis last year. And Ty Johnson, I mean, he's not a guy you're going to want to start, but as a backup, could do worse as a number 2. I mean, it's one of the lower end backfields in the league if you're talking Ray Davis than Ty Johnson, but it's still serviceable, especially when you have a really, dominant running quarterback. Maybe not in like an overall dominant way like you see with Lamar Jackson, but when you need a yard, and there's just about no one better in the NFL outside of the tush push in Philly with Jalen Hurts than Josh Allen in that spot. I hate that they even try the tush push because they suck at it. Just give Josh Allen a head start. Just snap him to him in the shotgun and just let that bullheaded man run into the offensive line and get down hopefully as quick as possible. But yeah, I think they're going to be fine even if they don't have James Cook. It would help a lot to have your guy that scored 20 touchdowns last year in the lineup, though. Can't even lie about that. Wide receivers still very much a work in progress, but ultimately I don't hate the group because they're all pretty complementary skill sets. So we got Khalil Shakir, very shifty, very fast, big play potential there as the number one receiver. I can't lie, on the lower end of number one receivers in the entire league if we're talking about the totality of this thing. But that's your number one receiver. He is a solid receiver at the end of the day, though, with an elite quarterback in Josh Allen that can really create some big plays for him as well sometimes. So he's the number one. Keon Coleman's the number two. I think you're going to need him to step up in a big way in this year two. You're hoping for big things from Keon Coleman. You drafted him first pick in the second round for a reason. He had a solid rookie year, but you're going to want to keep seeing improvement, and I personally hope I keep seeing improvement because Keon Coleman's like my favorite personality in the entire league. Just the true definition of like a golden retriever type, maybe even like a Saint Bernard, where Saint Bernards get like a bad reputation because they're big and scary. They're just big, lovable dogs. I think Keon Coleman kind of falls into that. I love Keon Coleman, man. If we can get him like a 10+ year NFL career, I'm gonna be happy as a clam. So hopefully Keon Coleman steps up. I don't know if he's going to take Khalil Shakir's number one spot. I think in the ideal offense, you get a true like top end number one receiver, probably on a rookie deal, hopefully. And then he ultimately bumps Khalil Shakir down to 2, and then he bumped Keon Coleman down to 3. I think that's probably the ideal scenario. But for right now, you'd love to see Keon Coleman kind of come into his own this year, get that over 1,000 yards, maybe 10+ touchdowns, really separate himself, maybe not as like a number one receiver, but as a very, very good number two, and maybe like a 1A in this offense with Khalil Shakir. And it keeps sounding like I'm throwing shade on Khalil Shakir. No shade at all. I love Khalil Shakir as a player. It's just we can't lie to ourselves and say that he's like an A.J. Brown or a Justin Jefferson or a Jamar Chase. He's just a rung or two below that, and there's nothing wrong with that, especially with Josh Allen as your quarterback. That's a great position to be in. Then you go ahead and look at the offensive. Well, tight ends, Dalton Kincaid needs to step up this year. Flat out, Dawson Knox is listed ahead of him on the depth chart, and that simply can't be. You need Dawson Knox to perform more of those blocking duties, and you need Dalton Kincaid to step up and have a breakout season, essentially. He was good last year, but health, always an issue for this guy, has been ever since college even. He's immensely talented, but you need him to explode on the scene this year. If you want to truly make that final Super Bowl push, you are so close right now, and the roster is very, very good. Maybe the best chance that you're going to get as far as a roster is concerned of competing under this Josh Allen contract. People forget he signed another $300 million deal as an extension this offseason, so he's just going to make crazy amounts of money throughout the course of his career. I mean, that's just, you want to talk about a charmed life. That's like, you will want for nothing for the rest of your life. I don't even know what I would do with all that money, quite frankly. But tight ends, main takeaway is guy needs to step up. Dalton Kincaid, you need to step up. You know what you're getting from Dawson Knox. You need Dalton Kincaid to step up. But you go ahead and look at the offensive line. You still got Deion Dawkins there, staple day in, day out left tackle. Very, very good guy on the outside. David Edwards at left guard, Connor McGovern at center, Osiris Torrance, who they drafted a couple years ago, at right guard. And at right tackle, you got Spencer Brown. So ultimately not terrible. Not a bad offensive line at all, especially when you're talking about run blocking. I think they could be a whole lot worse. Pass blocking, I mean, jury's still out. Here's the thing with the Buffalo Bills. They're not really an offensive line where maybe the true football heads out there are going to, name the Bills as like a top-end offensive line, but I'm not even sure that's the case. They're just solid all around. They're not terrible in any spots. I think outside of Deion Dawkins, I don't know if you have like an outstanding offensive lineman that you can kind of hang your hat on, but they just get the job done. Joe Brady calls the offense very effectively, maybe in ways that sometimes the analytics doesn't love, but I think as far as the flow of the offense, hey, their previous offensive coordinator, old hothead back there, Ken Dorsey, the analytics love that guy, but you look at the tape and it was just disgusting, and it didn't flow as well. You look at Joe Brady, not the case at all. Maybe sometimes the analytics don't bear it out, but you turn it on the tape, the offense just flows better than it did previously. So on the whole, listen, the Bills still had the makings of a top 5 offense. They could ultimately, if those guys step up that I just said, Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, you can find a way to get James Cook in the building and have him be effective throughout the course of the season. I mean, this could be the number 1 offense in the entire league. It's right up there with the Baltimore Ravens, who are just an absolute machine over there. I mean, and it's truly a luxury that they have, because Todd Monken is not going to get hired as a head coach. Yes, he is an offensive guy. Yes, he calls a hell of an offense, but no one wants an old offensive guy, unfortunately. That's really not had a whole lot of experience as a head coach. They want a young offensive mind. They want someone that they feel is young and innovative. For better or for worse, John Harbaugh knocked this hire out of the park, because that's an offensive coordinator who is elite and is not probably going to go anywhere anytime soon. So kind of a lot like Steve Spagnuolo there with the Chiefs on the defensive side of the ball for Andy Reid, a guy that you can kind of count on being there. And you hate it for the coordinator, because I'm sure both of those guys want to be head coaches. But as far as the stability of the team, it's paramount. If you're going to be, focused on one side of the ball, you got to have a guy that you trust implicitly, and he's not going anywhere for a long time if you can do anything about it. Same thing with the Vikings and Brian Flores. Again, that one's bullshit, but for better or for worse, he's going to be with the Vikings for a long time. So, I don't exactly know how I got off on that tangent. That is all to say the Buffalo Bills are going to be right up there, competing for the best offense in the league. I got to get this thing moving, though. I spent entirely too much time on that offense. Let's look at the defense. So we got a lot of the same names with one new one in there. We got Greg Russo rushing off the left end, Daquan Jones in the middle there, big run stopper. Ed Oliver, more your pass rusher archetype. Then you bring in Joey Bosa from free agency. He's going to be rushing on the other side for however many games you have him. It's worth noting that I believe they drafted Landon Jackson. Let me just confirm that. I think he's the guy out of Arkansas, correct? Yes, guy out of Arkansas, 3rd round pick in this year's draft. Pretty solid player, 6'6", 260-some. Kind of an all-around player on a bad Arkansas team over these last couple of years. So he could step up and get some big-time minutes there. A.J. Epinesa, a guy that's been there for a bit now, he's probably going to step up and get some good minutes. Just a solid front 7, even if Joey Bosa ultimately does get injured, which is... It just has to be the expectation at this point. I mean, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me can't get fooled again. That's what we always say on this thing. So I think Joey Bosa probably not going to be there for the full 17. Almost certainly not going to be there for the full 17. But you have some good backup options there, albeit unproven backup options in a lot of circumstances. But then you go ahead, look at what's behind him. We got Matt Milano coming back. He's had some injury issues over the last couple of years that bear watching. Shaq Thompson is the next one up to take his place if ultimately he gets injured again. Terrell Bernard coming back after a really good season. He is back there in the middle. Dorian Williams, strong side linebacker. Who's to say how much he plays? Not really a whole lot of 3 linebacker sets in the modern NFL, but worth mentioning that he is there. Taron Johnson, he got paid big time buku bucks as the nickel there, so he is probably going to be the guy that's going to be playing a lot more than Dorian Williams, I would say, in most situations. Then you look at the back end, you got Christian Benford, Taylor Rapp, DeMar Hamlin stepping into that starting role and kind of, taking it. I don't know if that's necessarily the safety pairing that you want at the end of the day, but Taylor Rapp's a solid player, albeit injury prone, and DeMar Hamlin turned himself into an all-right player. I don't think he's the long-term option there necessarily, but he's a good stopgap, and you have a good defensive coach there in Sean McDermott. Then you got Maxwell Hairston, the aforementioned Maxwell Hairston, there behind on the right cornerback position. For whatever that's worth, you probably get moved around a lot. I mean, this is kind of just placeholder positions here. So there you have it. There is the defense. Worth mentioning, if Hairston can't go, you got Dane Jackson and welcome back Tre'Davious White coming back on a cheap deal in free agency. I don't know how much you're going to get from Tre'Davious White post Achilles at the cornerback position, but good to have him back in Buffalo, if nothing else, back where he belongs at the end of the day. So still the makings of a top 10 defense when it's all said and done. I don't know if there's any one player that jumps off the screen for you necessarily. I don't know if there's anyone on this team that you could consider top 5 at their individual position, save like Taron Johnson at the nickelback. And even then, it's debatable. There's a lot of good nickels in the NFL. You basically need a good nickel in order to have a good defense, but having Taron Johnson back there is a big deal. So I think especially with Sean McDermott still calling plays there, they've been so good since he took over as the full-time coordinator on the defensive side of the ball. I think it's probably another top 10 sort of campaign for him, and this is going to be one of the best teams in the entire NFL. If we're talking top end, like top end, as far as the possibilities are concerned, I hesitate to go too wild with it, but I mean, you look at this division, give the Patriots and the Jets some credit. I think they made good decisions on the head coaching hires, and I like what they did personnel-wise. But still, top end of this thing could be 15-2, could be 14-3. I mean, they could be every bit as good as they were last year and even better from what they had been. I mean, this is just a Super Bowl caliber team. They're knocking at the door each and every year. And this year is no different. They have one of the best rosters in the entire league. When you take it in the totality and you factor in the elite quarterback, the MVP, the reigning MVP off of last season. So yeah, 15-2 probably your max there. As far as floor, I just have a hard time. I mean, and again, I say this caveat every time, assuming no injury to the quarterback here, I just have a hard time seeing them finishing worse than like 11-6. And then that's if they're really unlucky. And again, if Josh Allen stays healthy, that is. If Josh Allen doesn't stay healthy, this team can miss the playoffs, flat out. That's just how important the MVP quarterback is. But there's no use in litigating that circumstance because hopefully we won't have to watch that. It'd be very disappointing if we did. So assuming that Josh Allen is healthy, I think 11-6 is probably the floor. And that's even having some attrition on both sides of the ball, and maybe you're not as good, you fall behind in some games that, the luck doesn't go your way. Even that, they're probably, at worst, a wild card team, still probably winning the division. They're just one of the best teams in the league, flat out. There's no other way to describe them. So that's kind of my thoughts on the Buffalo Bills there. Anywhere from 11-6 to 15-2. I just think they're a playoff team no matter what, as long as Josh Allen stays healthy. That's my caveat there. All right, so we move on to the second place team in the division. We got the Miami Dolphins here, a team that once again I believe finished 9-8 last year, 8-9. I don't know. They're wholly unremarkable as a team because I don't take them seriously as a contender year in, year out. And we're going to get into why here right now. Why not? So offensively, you got Tua there at quarterback. Who knows if he has the concussion issues again. I don't know how many more concussions he can take before the speech starts getting impaired. I mean, I don't want to make too many jokes because it's kind of sad watching what's happening here. And ultimately, I think that's going to put him on the shelf for his career when it's all said and done. And we're going to see some probably sad outcomes in probably 10, 15, 20 years down the road for Tua. It's going to get real dark at some point. But for right now, he's their starter. He's pretty accurate. Got good receivers. So, I mean, hey, there's that. Not very mobile. Not a plus athlete. Actually, a minus athlete when you're talking quarterback position here. That's what you're getting from Tua Tagovailoa. Probably when he's on, he looks like a top 10 quarterback, but in reality, he's anywhere from 13 to 20. We'll say that's kind of my range on Tua Tagovailoa. So there you have that at quarterback. Running back, Devon Achane. I don't know, man. Achane is taken over as the starting running back with Jalen Wright as the second string, and I'll be damned. Alexander Madison's the third string running back. I guess they just decided they didn't want speed anymore in the backfield. So whatever, he's the third string, and then Ollie Gordon there at the fourth string. Poor Ollie Gordon. You should not have gone back to school at Oklahoma State last year, but I digress. Devon Achane there, we'll see what he does in an increased role. I think when he's on the field, he's one of the most electrifying players in the whole league. He's a big play waiting to happen. True 4.2 speed. He ran a 4.32. I think he's faster than that. I mean, he's one of the faster players that I've seen in the SEC, just kind of watching him on a Saturday-by-Saturday basis when he was in college at Texas A&M. He just is, he's slight of frame, and as such, he gets injured very often. So I think you're going to be seeing a lot of reps from Jalen Wright in this season. And frankly, I don't think the offensive line is going to help him out a whole lot. So I almost said Mike McDonald, different side of the ball and different coast for that matter. Different corner of the country, actually, come to think of it. Mike McDaniel has got his work cut out for him in the running game, but it's not for a lack of options there. It's not quite as deep as it has been there in the backfield, as it has been in the last couple of years, but still, pretty good 1-2 punch there between Achane and Jalen Wright. At wide receiver, you have got Tyreek Hill still there, still kind of a bad guy, but still a pretty damn good wide receiver and still one of the fastest players in the entire league. You just wonder how much longer that's going to last. Opposite of him, Jalen Waddle, still probably the fastest wide receiver duo in the entire league, I would say at this point. Maybe that's going to change because Jalen Waddle is kind of getting up there and getting long in the tooth as well. That's your 1-2, and then you bring in Nick Westbrook-Akine, who is, I suppose you could call him the number one receiver for the Tennessee Titans last year. I guess number 2 behind DeAndre Hopkins. Probably pretty good as a third receiver, I would say. So not a bad 1, 2, 3. Just don't know exactly what's going on there. Obviously got Darren Waller as the tight end, which I'm looking at this depth chart. There's not a single goddamn blocking tight end in the whole thing, and I don't know, man. I don't know, man. It's like not a copy and paste. Mike McDaniel obviously put his own spin on it, but it's the Shanahan running scheme, and the Shanahan running scheme works best when you have a tight end who can block. Darren Waller is a glorified wide receiver coming off of a year from retirement. So I don't know what they're doing there. They do still have Alec Ingold, so maybe line him up at tight end. Not really a whole lot of subterfuge there with what's happening when you have Ingold at tight end, but also a threat with his hands. So we'll see. Mike McDaniel, I trust him to put together a competent offense. It's just that the tools he has to work with are kind of perplexing to me. And then you look at the offensive line, and it's a real disaster, man. You got Patrick Paul at left tackle, who I apologize to that man. I'm not familiar with your game. James Daniels at left guard, same, not familiar with your game. Aaron Brewer, I know he's not what you want as your starting center. Right guard, Joe It's one of those Polynesian-looking names. Savaianai, butchered that. Destroyed that name. Old Jonah there at right guard. Did they just draft him this year? That looks like a draft pick. That's what that looks like. It looks like a draft pick. Yeah, second round out of, looks like Arizona. My goodness. What are you doing? What are you doing? I didn't tell you to start playing videos. That's just unconscionable. Unconscionable sort of material from you right here. Also, get out of here. Sorry about that. So then you got Austin Jackson at right tackle. Sure, why not? The offensive line is what's ultimately going to weigh down this team, and it's a combination of that and the quarterback that tell me, I mean, this is a Miami Dolphins team that's not serious about winning. I mean, don't get me wrong, Mike McDaniel is going to do his thing because he is a competent offensive coordinator. When he goes up against bad defenses, at the home field particularly, and in warm weather, they're going to light it up, and it's going to look fantastic at times. They might put up a 40-point game here in the early going of the season if they go up against one of these bad teams. I don't discount that possibility. It's just I don't take them seriously because I know late in the year with that offensive line, they're not going to be able to run the ball effectively. And, I mean, throughout the year, that's going to be an issue. I mean, Mike McDaniel, like I said, he's going to have his work cut out for him because this is not a very good offensive line group. So throughout the year, they're going to struggle running the ball, especially when it gets into cold weather. They don't really have a power back. I mean, Jalen Wright is larger than Devon Achane, but he's still not really a power back. He's more of a speed back with some size. And the quarterback, you put him in cold and wind, you put him in Arrowhead, let's just say, in January or December even for that matter, I already know what's going to happen. I don't need to watch that movie because I've seen it so many times at this point. It's just when you get into December and January when the games actually matter, I just don't trust the Miami Dolphins to win games. Flat out. And even throughout the course of the season, I don't think this offense is going to be consistent. I think it's going to be very much dependent on their opponent. I think they're going to kind of blow out weaker opponents. Or at the very least give them a run for their money because I don't know what they're going to be working with on the defensive side of the ball either. They got rid of like everyone essentially this offseason. Although some addition by subtraction, I would say, with some of those guys getting long in the tooth. I would not describe that for Jalen Ramsey at this point. But many of the others, worth questioning how good they've got it over there. So I don't know. This offense, I don't discount the possibility. I'm sorry, I keep moving around the TV tray there. I'm just kind of like itching my foot with the bottom of the chair. I apologize for that. But I don't discount the possibility that statistically, as far as like the dumb numbers and maybe some advanced statistics, the Miami Dolphins might be ranked up there pretty highly just because of the brilliance of Mike McDaniel. But when you get down into crunch time, I don't know. And you really kind of look at it. This is a middle-of-the-road offense at best, and that's only because they have Mike McDaniel as the offensive coordinator, and they have those receivers for as long as you can still fear Tyreek Hill and his speed, which still probably a couple years left on that runway still. We'll see. I mean, I don't think very highly of this offense, and I still don't think it's an offense that's built to win when it really counts late in the season and into the playoffs. So, middle of the road at best. I just don't really believe very much in what this offense has to offer. You look at the other side of the ball here. So defensive line, you got Kenneth Grant, Benito Jones, and Zach Sealer. Sealer's a pretty good player. He's a nerd favorite. So good run stopper, good on the interior there. Benito Jones, Kenneth Grant. I apologize, not familiar with your game too much. Jalen Phillips there rushing on the outside. Tyrell Dodson, Jordan Brooks on the interior. And, hey, I learned today Bradley Chubb is still on the Miami Dolphins for whatever that's worth after a couple big-time injuries over the last couple of years. Same thing with Jalen Phillips. Front seven, not terrible. It's worth questioning what you're going to get from Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. Both of those guys really stacking up the injuries at this point in their careers. I don't know. I mean, Zach Sealer's a fine enough player, but I just don't know how much I believe in all of the other players on that front seven. And, yeah, Weaver's going to have his work cut out for him, too. At least I assume that's who the defensive coordinator still is there. I truly don't know for sure because, again, the Miami Dolphins are wholly unnoteworthy, for being honest here. So you look at the back end, that's where we're really starting to get into some dire straits. So we got Storm Duck, great name, but maybe not one of the guys that you want to be your starting cornerback. You got Kader Kohu on the nickelback there. Jason Marshall Jr. Who doesn't know Jason Marshall Jr.? He is starting at your other cornerback position. Then you got Ashton Davis as your strong safety again. Not wholly familiar with his game. And if nothing else, you got a free safety that can cover up some mistakes in Minkah Fitzpatrick. So, although if you read between the lines there with the Pittsburgh Steelers, some guys on the defensive line may have had some exception with the way that Minkah Fitzpatrick played the game at times, but I think you're going to need a superhero on the back end to cover up all of the deficiencies in that secondary. And maybe I'm just looking at this from a dumb football fan perspective, but my eyes see what my eyes see, and they're not seeing a whole lot of pretty things when it comes to this Miami Dolphins defense. I mean, I think the offense is middle of the road for the Miami Dolphins. I think the defense is just kind of not very good at all. Like, I see them kind of down there in the 20s. I mean, maybe even pushing the late 20s if things really don't work out as far as the coordinator is concerned. With some smart coordinating, you can kind of push this thing to maybe middle of the road, somewhere in the teens. If you have a good coordinator, if the coordinator hire doesn't work out or there's some growing pains there with calling the defense, man, this is going to be a tough year for you. So I'm interested to see how it all plays out there. I don't think very highly of this personnel group, really on the whole, for the Miami Dolphins. Overall, if you had to put a number on how many wins I think they're going to get, I think the very maximum they're going to get is 10. And that's if they get lucky along the way. Maybe some injuries for some teams that they're going to be playing against that put them in a favorable position to go ahead and win those games. You play well in the home games. At that point, maybe 10-7. You're looking at like the 6 or the 7 seed in the AFC. The bottom could truly fall out here for this team, and then I don't know what they do with Mike McDaniel after that. Although, frankly, it's not his fault. The regression of this team. It's really 100% on Chris Greer and the way that he has built this roster, quite frankly, because I don't think there's a whole lot of rhyme or reason to it. I mean, they could finish 7-10, 6-11. 6-11 might be a little bit worse than even I would expect without a major Tua injury that puts him out for an extended period of time. But we can't discount that possibility, can we? Because we've seen him get concussed so many times. And, it's just various injuries. Some guys just get dinged up more than others. And you just look at Tua's whole career. I think he's had like a high ankle sprain. Obviously, he had that gruesome hip injury against Mississippi State in college. Apologies for that. Probably killed your mobility and athleticism to a high degree. So, sorry about that. Tua definitely didn't want that to happen. But that's in the injury past there as well. And then you factor in the numerous head injuries as he's sustained at the NFL level. It's just, you can't count on him being healthy all the time. And I make a special caveat for this one because you truly can't assume that Tua Tagovailoa is going to be healthy the entire year. You just can't do it. So 6-11 could ultimately be the floor for him. It could get real bad for the Miami Dolphins this year, and we're just going to have to wait and see how it plays out. I don't necessarily know what the long-term strategy is here for him, and I don't think very highly of this roster overall. What are we doing on time? What are we doing on time? Ooh, 46 minutes. My goodness, we probably got to speed this thing up a little bit, shouldn't we? So we're getting into the lower half of the division here. I don't remember the exact order here. Obviously, the Patriots were in last. I think I probably feel better about the Patriots as a team and their direction going forward than I do about the New York Jets. And maybe that's going to look foolish going forward, but excuse me. I apologize for that. It lets me know I should probably wet the whistle a little bit before I keep just bloviating on and on. Refreshing. Good stuff. Okay, so we'll talk about the Patriots next, and then we'll end things off with the Jets here. Obviously, I've got the Bills winning the division. There's no drama in that whatsoever. But Drake May, starting off with the offense here, I just kind of rolled into that. That was pretty awkward. But starting off with the offense, we got Drake May as the starting quarterback, year 2 under Josh McDaniels' scheme. I think you feel a lot better about that going into this season as opposed to where you were with Gerard Mayo, and I forget who he hired as the. I think Zach Robinson was. I can't remember if Zach Robinson was the offensive coordinator with the Patriots or with the Falcons last year. I don't know. One of those guys he brought in, and it didn't really work out great on the offensive side of the ball. Not that it was, really any coordinator would have gone in there and probably not done too great. But he's going into year 2 in a better scheme with a guy that is, frankly, hey, you want to talk about a guy that made the coordinator hire, right? If you're Mike Vrabel and you're going to be focusing mainly on the defensive side of the ball, even if you're not outright calling plays, it would behoove you to have an offensive coordinator that is going to do a good job and is downright unhireable by other teams. And that is exactly what Josh McDaniel is. After his 2 head coaching stops that ended so disastrously, several years apart from one another, ain't nobody hiring that guy as a head coach again. He is an offensive coordinator for life at this point, and with the New England Patriots at that. So, good offensive coordinator, maybe not a good guy, and certainly not a good head coach. He's going to be your offensive coordinator for as long as you'll have him, essentially. You're going to have him until you fire him, pretty much, and I think that's going to be great for Drake May. I think they really upgraded all across the offensive roster here, and we'll talk about it more in here in just a second, but had a shit ton of draft picks, had a lot of money to spend, And they went aggressively with both of those things. I really love what the Patriots did, and I think it's going to benefit Drake May this year. And I think you're going to see a lot of very good play from Drake May in year 2. I think I'm very high on Drake May progressing from year 1 to year 2 with a really good head coach that should not have been fired by the Tennessee Titans, and a really good offensive coordinator that is not going to get hired as a head coach by basically anyone else. So just an ideal situation for Drake May to blossom into a really, really good quarterback. I'm excited to see where he pushes his game to in this coming season. Outside of that, though, you got a really deep backfield. Number 1 player for right now, we'll see how long it lasts, injury history, and a very physical player, which contributes to that injury history. Ramondre Stevenson, just an absolute unit back there. He's like 250-some pounds, big physical guy. It's going to get you tough yardage, but, sneaky fast as well for his size. So he's your number 1 right now. I just have a feeling the guy they drafted in the 2nd round, Travion Henderson, he's going to take this job by the throat at some point, probably later in the season as he kind of gets into the NFL game, but he is a spark plug. He's fast. He's versatile. You can use him out of the backfield. You can use him just running traditionally. Travion Henderson is a stud. He's going to take this job at some point, and that's no real shade to Ramondre Stevenson. I think Ramondre Stevenson's probably getting towards the end of his useful life here as a running back, unfortunately, because of the miles they put on him and his play style, the injuries he's already sustained. Probably got him for one, maybe this year, certainly this year, maybe next year, and then he's out the door. I think you drafted a hell of a replacement and probably an upgrade in the long term in Travion Henderson. That's just how good he is. And Antonio Gibson, solid rotational player there at the 3rd slot, especially if Ramondre Stevenson goes down for a period of time. Antonio Gibson slots in there in the 2nd spot. Travion Henderson takes over the main reps, and you are still rolling, albeit it's going to look a little bit differently with that setup. I love the makeup of this backfield. And then you got Travion Williams there, the 4th, a guy that's gotten a lot of reps in the NFL. Not a starter by any means, but he is a guy that, as a 4th back, maybe he stays on the practice squad. He doesn't get a whole lot of reps. I wholly take that into a possibility when it's all said and done. But that's a guy, if that's your 4th string running back, you're not doing too bad when it comes to that. So I like that. I like the backfield. Wide receivers, Stephon Diggs comes in, coming off that ACL, especially this late in his career. It's yet to be seen what you're going to get from him in his 30s, coming off of an ACL injury. He's been partying with Cardi B all offseason. A truly unfaithful man. Everyone knows the story about, the questioning the Vikings locker room. Who would you least like to date your sister? And it was unanimously Stephon Diggs. We all know why. It doesn't need stating here. Not to say anything about him as a football player. He's a very, very good football player. And I think a guy like Mike Vrabel, maybe they butt heads, but I think Stephon Diggs is going to respect the hell out of Mike Vrabel and going to be able to keep that personality in check to a certain extent. If there's nothing else that Mike Vrabel is, he's a player's coach, not in terms of being lenient. He is a player's coach in terms of being able to communicate on a peer-to-peer basis, because Mike Vrabel played in the league forever. He played for a long, long time in the league and was a very good player, good productive player that won at the highest level. So he can speak from a place that most other coaches can't, and he takes full advantage of that in addition to his brilliant tactical mind. So I think that is all to say. I think he can manage Stephon Diggs well. It's just a matter of what you're going to get from him at this juncture in his career. Demario Douglas still there at the number 2. Mac Hollins coming in at the number 3 receiver. Just a guy that's stuck around, bounced around to a bunch of teams. Just a football player. I love Mac Hollins. Just a really, really good player. Just bounced around and carved out a hell of a career for himself as far as overall earnings is concerned. Shout out to Mac Hollins. He's done a good job for himself. And then you go from there. Kendrick Bourne still in the lineup, but maybe he's had one too many injuries at this point. Who's to say? A versatile player if he can stay on the field. It's just a matter of staying on the field. Kayshon Boutte, you got to go all the way down to like the 7th wide receiver to see last year's, 2nd or 3rd round pick, Jalen Polk, who I actually thought very highly of coming out of Washington. He's in danger of getting cut from this team. Same with Javon Baker, who you drafted last year. He's in real danger of getting cut from this team. So we're just going to have to wait and see on that one. But not looking great for him right now. Probably a middle of the road receiver group. If Stephon Diggs plays up to potential there, maybe a little bit better than middle of the road. The differentiator is going to be Drake May and Josh McDaniels and what they can do with this offense. And honestly, the X factor is going to be that backfield and how well they run the rock. Because I think the best version of this Patriots offense this year clearly built around the running game, especially with an offensive line that is still rebuilding. They made some really good pickups this past offseason, but still not quite where you want it to be in order to go and compete for championships, obviously. So you help them out by run the ball. You make things a little bit easier for your receivers on the outside by making numbers shift to your advantage in the running game, or you just run all over them if they don't shift numbers because Drake May is kind of killing them on the outside. And then you're cooking with gas at that point. You're talking top 10 offense sort of potential. I just don't necessarily see that happening. So they're going to have to finagle it a little bit. And Josh McDaniels is a very good offensive coordinator. I have all the faith in him in the world in him to do that, especially with Hunter Henry, very versatile tight end, good blocker, good receiver, a guy that stuck around a lot longer than I expected with all those injuries that he had with the Chargers for several years. He's stuck around for quite some time and still is a very good player there at tight end. You wonder how long you're going to be able to keep him going forward, but still the clear-cut number one tight end, still a safety blanket for Drake May, doing it for all these years. I mean, hey, credit to him for still being a solid player there at whatever age he is at this point. He's got to be over 30 at this point, if not like upper 20s, pushing 30. So credit where it's due there. Fullback, they brought in Brock Lampy. I believe he is from North Dakota State, I want to say. Big time bruiser of a fullback, and that's just a classic Mike Vrabel pickup right there. I love that. It tells you exactly what they want to do. They want to run the hell out of the rock. Offensive line and their investments therein show that as well. So basically, only starters they kept from last year are Cole Strange and Mike Nwenu at the left and right guards, respectively. And you're probably looking to move them out at some point if you don't see a big-time jump from them in play. Cole Strange, not too bad. Mike Nwenu, you just got to see more from him. They bring in new additions. Will Campbell, they drafted, number 3, 4 overall? I think it ultimately was like number 4 overall they drafted him. So he slots right in there at left tackle. Short arms or not, he's a beast. He's a very good athlete. He's going to be a very good player for you for a long time. It's just a matter of, hey, were the nerds right with his arms being too short? Who's to say? Worst case scenario, you bump him into guard, and he's a borderline all-pro guard for you for the next decade. So truly a can't miss. Well, you can't say can't miss because any prospect can miss. But as far as an offensive lineman is concerned, about as can't miss as you can get, about as sure a thing as you can get, in a position they very much needed. So he slots in there at left tackle. Obviously, Cole Strange at the left guard. You're bringing Garrett Bradbury at center, formerly of the Vikings, which, listen, I didn't want him as my starting center anymore. Does not mean he's not an upgraded starting center for whatever the Patriots had over the last couple of years. Because Garrett Bradbury, if nothing else, is an average starter at center. Just call it like it is. He's going to get embarrassed from time to time, but he's going to be solidly average for you for a vast majority of the snaps. And that is an upgrade over what they had in previous years. So that bears mentioning. Garrett Bradbury, an upgrade over what they had. So you got Mike Nwenu at the right guard, and then you got Morgan Moses getting up there in the years, but again, better than what they had last year at right tackle. And I think with what they have there, when you look in totality at the offense, I think this offense is a bit of a wild card. It truly does come down to how has Drake May progressed over the course of this offseason and in this new scheme. Because that's kind of the limiter on him at this point. I mean, it could be anywhere from a borderline top 10 offense to just the middle of the pack, but moving in the right direction. I think that I love basically everything they did on the offense this offseason. And if it pays off, they could be truly pushing top 10, especially if Drake May turns into, even approaching the player that he's expected to be, being drafted number 2 overall and having those flashes in his rookie year, albeit with a bad team. So it truly a wild card of all wild cards. They could be pushing playoffs or they could be comfortably out of it. It just kind of comes down to what you're seeing on this offense. Truly a wild card. I don't think they're going to be worse than middle of the pack, though. I like what they did with a lot of their moves. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, they made even more improvements on the defensive side of the ball. So they bring in Milton Williams, I believe, formerly of the Philadelphia Eagles. He slots in there. You got Kairos Tonga, which as a nose tackle, you'd probably want a little bit better, but you're not complaining about. Christian Barmore, stud for a long time. Maybe not quite the player he once was, but still very, very good guy there at right defensive end. Harold Landry, just a matter of what he has left in the tank, but that's a true bromance between him and Mike Vrabel. I keep forgetting his name. Christian Ellis there at linebacker, Robert Spillane, Anthony Jennings. That's your linebacker core there running the 4-3. Solidly average at the end of the day. And we're just going to kind of power through the rest of this. I mean, Carlton Davis you bring in at cornerback. That's a big-time addition. Kyle Duggar is one of the better strong safeties, versatile players in the entire league. He really helps out your defense. Jabril Peppers, not going to, take home any awards, but he's a solid free safety. Not quite the Heisman level player in the NFL like he was in college, but ultimately a really, really good player back there. That's going to, you don't have to worry about him on the back end. I'll put it that way. Christian Gonzalez, I think in this Mike Vrabel scheme is going to really come alive. Then you got Marcus Jones there at the nickel corner. And frankly, the overall roster isn't like fantastic on this defensive side of the ball. There's truly some question marks. I just trust Mike Vrabel so much that I'm just going to blindly predict that they're going to be a top 10 defense, frankly. I mean, and if they're not top 10, they're going to be top half of the league because that's just who Mike Vrabel is as a defensive, coordinator. Maybe he won't be calling plays, but he's going to have his fingerprints all over that defensive side of the ball. I mean, he's about the closest thing that we have to Belichick after Belichick left. Obviously, a disciple of Belichick for a long, long time. Mike Vrabel is just one of the better, probably the best defensive mind that we have in the NFL right now. And I think you've given him more than enough to work with. Elliott Wolf has done more than enough with this roster on the defensive side of the ball for Mike Vrabel to turn around and make this a really serviceable, very solid unit, even with a couple deficiencies there at like linebacker. Maybe a little bit of defensive line depth would make you feel more comfortable. I just think that they're going to find a way through that. They're going to figure out the pass rush. And ultimately, it's going to be cancel Christmas. We're going to be off the races. Also, did I say 4-3? It's a 3-4. I'm an idiot. But what do I expect from the Patriots this year? As far as the floor, I think 7-10. Yeah, I'm going to call it 7-10. I don't think they're going to be worse than 7-10. I think 7-10 would be if some things really went wrong this year. I don't think they're going to be bad regardless. I think they made a lot of key improvements to the roster, and I think it's just night and day from the coaching staff from last year, from what it was. So I believe very heavily in them. They're just, roster might not turn out the way you were hoping. Some young players you're counting on. Maybe Stephon Diggs doesn't have anything left in the tank. All valid possibilities that could result in tandem with injuries in like a 7-10 sort of campaign. Top end though, they could get 10. They could get 10-7. They'd have to sneak some out there. But I really believe in Mike Vrabel as a head coach. I think he's one of the best coaches in the entire league, and I'm still perplexed as to why the Titans fired him last year and why no one hired him going into last season. I guess maybe it worked out for the best for Mike Vrabel, takes a year off, kind of takes stock, examines the philosophy, does some introspection a little bit more, maybe comes back better, but that was one of the weirdest ongoing storylines throughout the course of last year. And I don't know, the roster is not to a point where they're going to be winning games and getting deep into the playoffs, but 10-7 in a playoff berth, totally not out of the question. They're just a solid team in this upcoming season, and I'm excited to see what the new coaching staff does, and most importantly, I'm excited to see what Drake May does in this offense, because I feel like they got themselves another one, and they are taking the right steps to make sure that he develops into what he is expected to be. And that's got to be exciting if you're a New England Patriots fan, especially after the last couple years of abject hell that they have been through with the instability, the roster turnover, the coaching staff turnover, all of it. I think you're finally ready to turn the page a bit on the Belichick era, which has got to be exciting for you. So, last one up here. We're going to get another quick time check to see where we're at. We are already over an hour, so we're just going to kind of breeze through this New York Jets preview. So, New York Jets, terrible last year. I think they also improved in a couple ways this year, but I think clearly the worst roster in the division. Let's just get right into it. So, quarterback, that's where it all kind of falls apart right out of the gate. I mean, you've got Justin Fields there, Tyrod Taylor as the backup, and having Tyrod Taylor there, for whatever Tyrod Taylor is worth at this point in his career, he's known as a solid backup, so it tells me you don't believe that much in Justin Fields. You pay Justin Fields like low-level starter money. So we all know what this is. This is a trial run for Justin Fields, and we'll see what happens from there. On the low end of starting quarterbacks, we'll just say that. Running back, you're not doing terrible. I mean, you got Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. Pretty solid 1-2 there, especially with the size of Braylon Allen, the speed of Breece Hall. So you can't complain with that. Breece Hall, one of the best backs in the entire league. Braylon Allen, not a bad backup option. So that's got to help. Garrett Wilson there just got paid, as we said. He is the number 1 receiver. Then you got Josh Reynolds and Allen Lazard as the 2 and 3. Mason Taylor, who is a rookie that they just brought in, he will be slotting in there at the starting tight end. You're looking at Malachi Corley as your 4th receiver in the rotation. Not fantastic there in the receiving core. I would even go as far as to say bad outside of Garrett Wilson. Josh Reynolds, solid enough player. He should not be higher than your number 3, I would say, on a good offense. And that should tell you a lot about the personnel for the New York Jets in this upcoming year. Then you go ahead, you look at Andrew Beckett, fullback. The fact that they have a fullback speaks volumes. We'll get to a little bit more of those implications here in just a second. And it's a little bit of a retooled offensive line. So you got Olu Fashanu there at left tackle, a guy that's they drafted last year to play left tackle, if I'm not mistaken. Left guard, or maybe they drafted him this year. No, they didn't, because they got Armand Membu at the right tackle, which that's a guy they need to step up in a huge way this coming year. Joe Tippmann as the center, who I'm not super familiar with his game, just the name that I've heard, which probably doesn't bode well. You got John Simpson at left guard, Elijah Vera Tucker at right guard, who again has gone through a lot of injury stuff, but when he is on, is one of the better guards in the entire league. Listen, especially with the offensive coordinator, I think they brought in Tanner Engstrand from the Lions from last season. The formula is clear, and there is truly only one path to being even serviceable as an offense this year. Your receivers suck outside of Garrett Wilson. Your running backs are good. Your quarterback, not a very good passer, really, no matter what way you slice it, whether it's Justin Fields, Tyrod Taylor. Lord forbid you get to Adrian Martinez and Brady Cook territory. Not good options up and down the roster there from a receiving any quarterback perspective. But what you do have is a quarterback that's one of the fastest in the entire league in a straight line and is a big physical player. And you have 2 running backs in Breece Hall and Braylon Allen that are ready to handle the load of the offense. Not to mention you have an offensive line and a fullback that is ready to run the rock. You basically run the wing T this year. I mean, you're not going to call it that. It's going to be a little bit more passing than that. But if you're creeping into the 35 pass attempts, 40 pass attempts in a game, that's not winning football for the New York Jets. I think ideally, you're probably looking at like 30 passing attempts and like 30 rushing attempts. You're looking for balance, and you are looking to run the absolute piss out of the ball with a lot of QB option in there, a lot of sprint option, a lot of designed QB runs, in addition to designed Breece Hall and Braylon Allen runs. You run the hell out of the ball, and you just lean on the defensive brilliance, assumably, of Aaron Glenn. Did a great job with the Lions. It's a little bit different when you're the head coach and the defensive play caller when it's all said and done. But for this situation, that's why you hired Aaron Glenn. I think it would behoove you to hope that Tanner Engstrand just got a little bit of that sprinkling of that stardust there, of that Ben Johnson magic on the running game. You hope he just took a little bits of knowledge from that experience and kind of morphs that into a unique offense with the New York Jets. that exemplifies Justin Fields' legs and really leans heavily into the run. Truly, that is the only way that they're going to be a serviceable offense this year. And truly, honestly, they built the team in a way that tells you they are going to run the hell out of the ball this year. We'll talk a little bit about how many games we expect them to win, because I don't expect them to win a whole lot. If they make the playoffs, I would be floored, shocked even, and probably give Aaron Glenn the coach of the year. But as far as offensive potential, if they do what I just said there, could put them squarely in the middle of the pack. They're not even going to be sniffing the top 10, but if maybe you can get to 16, 17 out of 32, that's not too bad. That's not too bad when it's all said and done. Work in progress to the nth degree. They need a quarterback like they need air to breathe right now. But Justin Fields, you can work with that. He's got some physical tools that can make some life easier for you. Looking at the other side of the ball, though, oh man, I'm gonna have to wrap this thing up too. We just got the energy saved remote on. So, Will McDonald at the left defensive end, he's gonna have to step up big time there. He's a first round pick a couple years ago. Got to step in there and be better than he has been. Derek Nottie and Quinnen Williams there on the interior. Jermaine Johnson, stud there on the outside. They're gonna have to pay him a whole lot of money. Jamin Davis, Jamian Sherwood, and Quincy Williams there as the linebackers. Then you got Sauce Gardner, another guy that's going to have to get paid a whole lot of money. Tony Adams at the safety, Andre Sisco at the free safety, to Tony Adams strong safety there. Brandon Stevens at the other cornerback opposite of Sauce Gardner. Obviously they lost Reed from last year's team. He went over to the Detroit Lions. Big time pickup by them. We'll just see if it matters ultimately. And then you got Isaiah Oliver as the nickel cornerback. Jury's out on this defense. It's still not a terrible group. It's got some notable holes in ways that it didn't have, say, 2 years ago. You're seeing a little bit of attrition there, especially, outside of Quincy Williams. I am not a huge fan of this linebacking core. Defensive line still solid. You just wonder if Will McDonald's going to emerge as that other pass rusher opposite of Jermaine Johnson, but Quinnen Williams is a stud. Obviously, Sauce Gardner is at worst a top 5 corner in the entire league, even with some regression year over year last year. So it's not a bad group if Aaron Glenn shows up as advertised. I don't have a whole lot of reason to expect otherwise. It's just he's never been a head coach, and now he's going to be doing 2 jobs at once. It's never a guarantee that works out. So jury is still out. I mean, they could be a borderline top 10 unit. They could be middle of the pack. I don't think they fall a whole lot farther than that just because they have a very good group. And honestly, I'm looking at their linebacking core. I am seeing Francisco Mauigoa, maybe the only good defensive player on the Miami Hurricanes last year, does play with his hair on fire. So maybe some questions in the coverage aspect, but could do a whole lot worse on that front. So probably middle of the pack to top 10, I would say. What are we thinking as far as the overall? What are we thinking as far as the ceiling and the floor for this team? So ceiling, I don't really see them getting a whole lot better than 8 and 9. Maybe they're a little bit feisty throughout the course of the year. 8 and 9, you'd be overjoyed if you are a Jets fan, especially after the abject misery they've been through over the last several seasons on that front. So that's probably your peak. You get a good running offense. Defense shows up pretty well. And ultimately, you just lose some games because you don't have enough firepower. That is one possibility. Other possibility, the bottom could really fall out on this team as well. They could really go like, I'd say, I mean, who's to say? I mean, being nice to them, probably 5 and 12. Just because the quarterback situation is a bit of a disaster from a passing perspective, and you're going to be pretty one-dimensional on offense. I mean, if the play caller doesn't work out in Tanner Engstrand, you're going to put yourself in a tough spot there. Who knows what the defense is going to look like with Aaron Glenn coordinating and being the head coach for a first time? I don't know. I believe in them. I think that they're going to, show some fight this year and have some building blocks going into next season. You just hope that they do a good job with the draft picks from that point forward. I don't know. They're going to fall somewhere in between that 8 and 9 and 5 and 12 range. I don't see them making the playoffs when it's all said and done. Truly, there may only be one playoff team in this division, that being the Buffalo Bills. I mean, there's no other team that's truly guaranteed in this division to go ahead and finish this thing out, get to the playoffs. So those are my thoughts on the AFC East. I don't know why I got British / Australian there for a second, but that's it. That's all, folks. I need to get off this thing because I am getting low battery notifications like a motherfucker. I may lose power any second. So we're going to cut it off here. Thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. If you enjoyed, go ahead and subscribe wherever you are listening to this. We are doing the NFC East next week. Get hyped for it. Get excited. It's a bad division as always, but we got one good team there with actually two good teams now between the Commies and the Eagles. Excited to talk about it. We'll talk about that next week. If you were excited about that too, go ahead and hit subscribe, share with a friend, get this thing ramping up to football season. Go ahead, shoot me a DM, follow me on Twitter at CalebVUA. You love to see it. You love to see that. Outside of that, thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. As always, I've got no clue what I am talking about. That being said, I learned one thing this week, and it blew my mind. If you were to superimpose the landmass of Indonesia, just the full archipelago, however you pronounce it, just a group of island nation, over the U.S. So if you go from, just superimpose that over the U.S., Indonesia would stretch from Washington State to Florida. I don't know if that's the tip or just the top of Florida. That's insane. I did not know Indonesia was that large of a full landmass, but from corner to corner of one of the largest landmass countries in the entire world. Insane stuff. That being said, I'm going to plug this thing in before power goes out and I lose all of the recordings. And outside of that, you guys have yourselves a good one. I will see you guys next Tuesday as we keep this thing rolling. Have a good week. Don't let the drinks catch up to you. No DUIs, folks. No DUIs. Also, by the way, Quinshon Judkins. Didn't mention it. I forgot about it. Did not forget about you. Did not forget about you. We'll let the legal process play out on that one as well. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to go plug this in. See you guys next Tuesday. Bye.